Beneath the skin of silence. Beneath the skin of silence. Autumn crept slowly over the city, wrapping it in thick layers of fog that lingered long after dawn. The mist wound through narrow streets and courtyards, curling around weathered rooftops and clinging to cracked windowsills. Rain didn't simply fall here. It seeped into the very bones of the buildings, leaving damp traces on wrought iron railings and the bare hands of passers-by. The air was heavy with silence, the kind that fills every empty corner with quiet grief. In a small apartment on the top floor of a crumbling building, lived a woman named Lotta. The walls around her were cracked, paint peeling from the ceiling like dry leaves. Her windows overlooked a courtyard where once children played, now deserted and gray. No flowers ever bloomed on her balcony, only dead pots and fading memories. Every morning before the first light, she rose and began her ritual. A splash of cold water to her face, a cup of black coffee without sugar, and then the slow walk to the hospital. At the hospital, sterile and white, time seemed to slow. Lotta sat beside her mother's bed, a frail shadow of the woman who once filled their home with warmth. Each day her mother faded further, her breaths shallower, her eyes dimmer. Lotta held her mother's hand tightly, unwilling to let go, though she knew the grip was growing weaker with each passing hour. The smell of disinfectant and stale coffee filled the corridors, mixing with a quiet sorrow that hung heavier than any word. Outside, in the courtyard just beyond the hospital walls, a man sat beneath a gnarled old tree. His presence was as steady and silent as the fog itself. A camera rested on his knees, but he did not raise it to his eye. His gaze was distant, fixed on some invisible horizon, tired and unblinking. This man was Severin. Once a battlefield medic, he had witnessed horrors that could not be erased. The faces of those he could not save haunted him, their names etched deep into his mind like scars. Every day, as Lotta passed through the hospital grounds, their eyes met, brief, hesitant exchanges that neither could explain. She, with a faded photograph folded carefully in her pocket. He, with the weight of unspoken stories pressing down on his shoulders. No words were spoken, yet a fragile thread began to connect them. A shared understanding born from pain and loss. One evening, Lotta left a cup of coffee on the bench beside Severin. She did not linger to watch him take it, nor did she glance back. The next day, the cup was gone. Then, the day after that, another cup appeared and vanished. Small, silent gestures became their language, weaving a fragile tapestry of connection in the cold, damp air. Inside the hospital, time continued its slow decay. Nurses moved quietly, their faces lined with fatigue and resignation. Doctors avoided prolonged eye contact. Tears were a luxury neither Lotta nor her mother could afford. Silence had filled the spaces left behind, thick and suffocating. Then came the night when the storm broke loose, a violent tempest that tore through the city, knocking out power and swallowing sound. The hospital was plunged into darkness, the only light flickering from emergency lamps casting long shadows across empty halls. Lotta stepped outside, barefoot, letting the cold rain soak through her clothes. She did not cry. She breathed, tasting the rawness of the storm, as if it might wash away the grief lodged deep inside. Beneath the tree in the courtyard, Severin sat unmoving, his camera gleaming like a dark shell in the rain. Their silhouettes merged in the gloom, two broken shapes sharing the same breathless space. No words were exchanged, none were needed. In that silent communion, they found a fragile kind of solace. By morning, Lotta's mother was gone. The hospital had reclaimed its quiet, but something within Lotta had shifted. She sat by the window long after the removal of the body, her hands empty but her heart no longer crushed by the weight of waiting. Severin came to her door for the first time, not to take anything but to simply be there. Side by side, they walked the damp streets lit by the weary glow of street lamps. The evening air smelled of wet earth and distant fires. They did not speak. They did not hold hands. They simply existed together, breathing in unison. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The silence between them grew less like a barrier and more like a shared space where healing could begin. Lotta rediscovered small joys, baking bread, the warmth of a kitchen filled with the scent of yeast and honey. She opened her balcony door to let the fresh air mingle with the rosemary plant she had placed there. Severin began photographing again. Not battles or ruins, but light and shadow, her hands cradling a cup, the way rain traced paths down window panes. Their love was not sudden or fiery. It did not blaze with passion or promise. It grew quietly, like moss on stone, slow, steady, persistent. It was not a rescue, nor a cure. It was simply presence, a witness to pain and resilience, a quiet defiance against the void. There were no climaxes, no dramatic scenes that tore at the heart. Instead, their story unfolded gently, like a long embrace after years of silence, like shadows softening into dawn light, like memories that no longer sting but comfort. This was love, the kind born not of grand gestures, but of shared solitude. Steady, true, enduring. The love that lingers beneath the skin of silence. Forever.